To our audience, welcome. We are continuing on our Memories of Plymouth project that's been initiated by the Plymouth Historical Society. It's a collection of your stories, your memories of what a wonderful place Plymouth is to live. Some of the people that we interview were born in Plymouth, they grew up in Plymouth, went to school in Plymouth, or the surrounding areas, Today we have as our guest, Donald Wiggett. So welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We're going to have a series of questions that we would like to ask of you today, Don, but if we can, some people listening today, watching today, they know you very well. Some people have heard of you, and some people may never have heard of you, so I'm going to ask you a few identifying questions if I can.
Sure.
May seem kind of silly, but not really. I'm going to ask you to state your full name.
Donald Willard Wiggett.
Your middle name, please?
Willard.
And is Willard after somebody?
My father.
Your father.
Right.
Your father. Where were you born?
Plymouth.
All right. And do you mind either telling us your age or the year of your birth? We can figure that one out.
Well, I'm 81 3/4. I was born on October 21st, 1935.
Oh, almost another birthday. Almost another
Another
birthday.
month to go.
All right. And again, where were you born?
Plymouth.
Can you tell me the hospital in Plymouth?
As far as I know, I was up on Ward Hill, left-hand side, first house. I think it's the Smith house now. Mrs. Smith lives there, I think.
Wow.
But that was a birthing hospital, or whatever they called it back then. So I was told. I don't know for sure, but I think that's where it was.
Wow. That's the first person that shared that with me.
Mm-hmm.
Your education in town, am I correct? You
Yep.
went to Plymouth
Oh,
schools?
sure. Yep,
And so that would be elementary, junior high, and high school?
correct.
Let's talk a little bit about the teachers you might have had. I'm putting you on the spot, but can you remember any of their names?
Mrs. Fraser.
Mrs. Fraser.
Yes.
All right.
She was my English teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason she liked me, so she taught me she treated me pretty good, you know. But I learned a lot from her, and I always had a fear of speaking in public. That was the biggest thing for me.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and she can help me through that, you know.
That's neat.
But I think of all the teachers I had, she was one of the best.
That's neat. That's neat. Did you think of her as a strict person,
Very.
a warm person?
I say strict.
So you did your homework.
I did.
So recently we had Tom Volpe, which is the mom. All right.
Right, sure.
Yeah, and so it's been fun to talk to Tom and Clem about their experiences with Tom's mom. Was when you were in high school or maybe even junior high, were there certain activities, extracurricular activities that you participated in?
No, I didn't. Nothing. I didn't do that at all. Basically, after school, I'd go to work, and wherever that would be, whether working, cutting somebody's grass, or
All right.
you know, just odd jobs and stuff like that. Nothing big or major or anything like that. That's just what I did. No, never got into sports.
Well, sports, what else would we have had offered to us then? I'm trying to go back a little bit. We could have had something. Do we have any kind of clubs then?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I never got involved in that kind of thing.
So you were a worker from way
Yep.
back when? All right.
So I worked when I was 12 years old.
12 years old.
Sat cutting lawns and stuff like that.
What was your first official job that you can remember?
Fraser's Diner.
Fraser's Diner.
I lasted one day. I washed dishes one day and I quit.
And the owner would have been Henry.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yep, right. Henry Fraser. Right.
Henry Fraser,
Yep.
World War II vet.
Yep. And then I went to the theater, which I made popcorn. And that was a good deal.
All right.
Yeah.
And who would have owned or who would have managed the theater at that time? Was it Matt Keniston that would have done it?
No,
or
the
was
guy before him, Graves.
All right.
I can't remember his first name.
All right.
But
Oh, that's interesting. But it's located in the same place
yep.
as always.
Oh yeah.
Very interesting, very interesting. Let's see now. We were talking previously, we were talking about service. You were in the service.
Yep.
What times?
I was in the National Guard 1 year, and then one of my classmates had gone in the service, and he came back and told us about the Air Force. Buddy and I, we joined the Air Force in 1955, and I served 4 years. Basically, I worked in the store. That's what I did.
The store, a store?
No, it was not. It wasn't a commissary type thing. They called it a country store, which had all kinds of parts, aircraft parts, you name it. It was all kinds of stuff. And I just worked there for 2 years. I was an instructor, taught supply, that was my job. But outside of that, nothing heroic.
And this was at the end of Korean War, maybe?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
So
thank you for your service.
55 to 59. So.
We've been living here for a long time. The next question is going to be something along the lines of your memories, your reflections of living in the town of Plymouth. So as a child, do you have any special memories that have stayed with you all these years?
No, it was a good town to be in. It was a safe town. It was not the problems there are today with the drugs and all that stuff. It was just a good town to grow up in. You knew a lot of people, and you could walk the street without worrying about too much. And you know, and it was a good bringing up for me. My whole family, in fact. You know, we enjoyed being part of Plymouth.
Where did you live in Plymouth?
Which house you want? I moved about 5 different places.
But were you close enough to walk to school?
Oh yeah, I walked through all the time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I lived on Highland Street. I lived on Pleasant Street. I lived on Crawford Street. I lived on Main Street. I lived on Russell Street.
Wow.
I think that's all of them.
But they're all close enough so you could have walked to school.
Oh yeah, I walked to school every day. Yeah. Sometimes in bad weather, my father would give us a ride or something like that. But so.
And they probably never shut down school due to inclement weather.
I think maybe not the weather. I think one time there was a big epidemic of measles or mumps or whatever it was, and they closed down I think one day. But I don't remember ever closing much beyond that.
Wow.
You know?
Wow, that's interesting. All right. Childhood memories. I'm going to say a word to you, and if you have something to respond to it, weather-wise. You might have just answered that, weather-wise. Can you remember any, of course, here we are right now, we're talking about Irma, which just taken place in Florida, but can you have any do you have any memories of these kinds of incidences in Plymouth or the surrounding areas? Floods, hurricanes, so much snow we didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the...
I remember shoveling snow and shoveling snow and shoveling snow, but basically we didn't do much in the area. We just lived at a certain residence. We worked, and basically that's what we did. We weren't involved in any kind of extra activities, you know. So.
Okay. Fires. Any fires during your lifetime that you can remember?
Yeah, that Methodist Church downtown Plymouth.
All right.
Okay, and we lived up on Highland Street at that time, and my father was involved with the waterworks, and he had to leave, down to get the fire hydrants all lined up, ready to go, whatever. And I can remember seeing the sky bright red, and I was young. And I can't remember what year that was, but I must have.
Early 40s.
Was there? Yeah, I'm about 5 or 6 years old. But I can still picture that.
Wow.
So,
wow. So were you at home when you walked down to see the fire,
no,
or
I didn't
from
walk
your...
down at all. It happened it was early morning maybe. I just saw it from my house, that's all. That's all.
Wow. All right. Any recollections on fairs? As a child, were you able to get to one of the fairs that we had?
Not until I was probably a teenager, but we went to Plymouth Fair. Sandwich Fair a couple times too, but it was a good time. So, a bit of fun.
Plymouth Fair, one of the oldest fairs we've ever had.
Right.
What was it that drew you to the Plymouth Fair?
Just something different. How often did only once a year, and a bunch of us guys would go and watch the hell drivers and all that stuff, and that type of thing. Ride the Ferris wheel. And,
It was an agricultural fair?
right. Yep. Never got much into that stuff, but.
Yeah, I don't even know if we had a 4-H group at that time in the area. I don't recall as a child.
Right.
So, interesting. Think about your family. Think about some of your friends. Events that have taken place. Birthday parties, weddings, that you were involved in. Passings of certain people, how they may have affected you. Anything special that happened even during high school. There was an event that might have taken you away. At the end of the school year in high school, did you folks take off for a few days, a senior trip? Did they have that
As soon as
then?
I graduated, I went right to work.
All right, so they've
Adams
been
Market. Yeah.
Adams Market. So
Right.
maybe that's what we should start with. For
Okay.
those folks that are listening today, tell me where Adams Market was located.
Okay, where the Readery is now was Adams Market. That's where I started there in 1952. And I worked there because I was in high school. I worked there part-time. I went in the Air Force, and I came back to Adams Market. But eventually, that store moved to what now is UPS store. That was the biggest of the stores. And I worked there for 30 years, give or take.
30 years.
Yeah, a long time.
Who hired you? Can you do that?
I think it was Carl Adams,
Carl Adams.
because John Stiles was my uncle, and he was a meat cutter there for 30 years. And he gave me, he told me, he said, "There's a job opportunity if you want to work." I said, "Yeah, why not?" You know? So I applied for a job, and they hired me right on the spot. So
What position did you, what did you do for work there?
basically I was in produce. Yeah. So a fellow, my boss was Bob Burt, and he
Great.
passed on. When he passed on, I took over, and I ran the produce department for, I don't know, 25 years. And then Sheldon Hall, who was like the assistant manager, he died, and I took his place for the last year that Adams was open.
So from when Adams's first started, they enlarged over time?
No,
No?
no,
Stayed the same size,
Yep.
same size?
yeah, it didn't change. I can't remember, it was 5,000 square feet or something like that, what the size of the building was. But it was a good job and good people to work for. Good people.
I'm trying to think of what life must have been like for you, maybe in the 50s or the 60s working there. What was the busiest day of the week for Adams's?
Usually Thursday night or Friday. Friday was the busiest time because we used to haul groceries out with the customers. It's something that's a thing that, although at Hanford they still do that to some degree, but normally everybody takes care of their own stuff. That we haul stuff out, and have to go down through snow, you name it.
I think for the audience, from Adams's, your last position was at Hannaford's.
Right.
All
yeah.
right,
Yeah,
all
yeah,
right.
right.
Yeah, let's stay on the main street if we can.
Okay,
though.
sure.
Thursdays and Friday nights. Why were they so busy at that particular time in the 50s or the 60s and
I don't know. There
70s?
seemed to be people came to town to get groceries
Groceries.
and visit. We had people come in the store and you'd have to excuse me to get by because people were just visiting and talking and things like that. You know.
So
It was a good store. It was a friendly store. I think we had some of the friendliest people there. They were really good with the customers, and we knew everybody back then.
Yeah.
That's the big thing. We knew everybody, and even though I was young, hi, how are you? How are you? You know, just simple conversation. But I guess that helped me in my years in being employed in whatever store I worked at. You know.
That's neat.
So,
If you took the groceries out, I don't think I've ever asked my husband that. When you took the groceries out, did they tip you way back when?
if it was very small. I got a quarter.
There was probably some money, though, at that particular time.
Exactly.
Yeah, interesting.
I know some of the guys who worked there, they got some pretty good tips, but all I ever go is a quarter.
I just, my conversation, where it comes from is, when did we start giving tips to people?
Yeah.
All right.
It didn't happen that much for me anyway.
When Carl Adams worked there, he had 3 children, am I correct?
Correct.
And was Fletcher there at that time that you were working?
He was there a little, because he was going to college and stuff like that.
Oh, that's right.
So during the summer he'd be there off and on, and I didn't work much with him until his father died. Then he took it over, and then of course he was my boss. You know, so.
Interesting. Fun. Let's see. Let's stay. I'm enjoying this. Adams's is there. That's where the Readery, and that's where UPS is now. The other stores next to them haven't changed too much, have they?
No, not really. No.
Really, the Style Center is still there. Rand's is still there.
Right. Yep.
So that's a.
Yep.
That's neat. That's neat. All right. If I asked you what was a major change, or maybe a couple of major changes that you've seen in the several decades you've been here, what might it be Has there been any significant changes that you have observed from the 60s to the 70s to the 80s to the 90s?
It'd be the college. To me, I think the biggest part of this town is like back in the 50s, 40s, 50s, maybe early 60s, there wasn't too much change in the area. But once the college started expanding, and the houses I used to live in fact, there's college kids live there now and stuff like that. But they more or less, I won't say took over the town, but they expanded their operations further out into the area.
Yeah. During your growing up years, was there someone in town that became a mentor to you, that affected you, that...
I'd say probably Carl Adams. He was a great guy, and I guess I learned from him how to treat people. If a customer had a problem, you would go up and, "Can I help you, sir?" and things like that. But I observed him, people would bring little kids in, and he'd pick them up and hug them and all that stuff. And, you know, he was very, very friendly with the customers, and I thought, well, that's good for business too, you know? People appreciate something like that. And so for me, that was even though I was young, and I didn't really think a lot of it at that time, I see now where that was part of my maturity. I was there for maturity. How about that one?
Chalk it up.
Yeah, I snuck that one in there. Yeah. But you know, I think Carl he was a great guy. He really was.
Good to know. And other people have said something to that effect too.
Yep, yeah.
Yeah, special. Thinking going backwards decades, were you part of any celebrations that we had here? Can you remember, this would be a funny if we went back, 1913 was one of our birthdays for the town, so we won't go there. But we will go to 1963.
Is that the anniversary of?
It's one of our anniversaries.
Yeah, I remember that one.
All right, and then we also recently in 2013 we had our latest 250th.
Right.
Were you part of those? Were you on the main
No.
street? Were you watching the parades?
I saw that one before. I saw the big parade there on that one. But the others, I didn't really get involved in that kind of stuff. No.
All right, let's go on. I've asked this question of quite a few folks. Do you have memories of some of the restaurants that were here? Sometimes we just talk about food. Is there a
Right.
special food that you can remember that might come from your family background? And others have talked about there was a restaurant they frequented because maybe it was an after-school event and they would go there. But let's go to your family first. Was there any special food that a member of your family, relatives made that stays with you today?
My mother made the best pot roast in town. She was a fantastic cook. And in fact, my wife to this day, she says, "Did your mother ever cook anything you didn't like?" Never.
Wow.
Never, you know. And as far as restaurants go, I would say Fausti's Restaurant. That was a place, I mean, you get a good meal in, it was reasonable. In fact, I used to work at the theater, and I would have my supper over there or something like that. So, and of course, also J.J. Newberry's. They used to have a food counter there. And Mandy Logan ran that one.
Absolutely, Mandy Logan.
And I used to have a hot dog and French fries or something like that. So probably that was it for me as far as eating out. I wasn't much on it because we didn't have the cash back then. You know?
Absolutely. I remember walking in J.J. Newberry's 5 and 10 cent store. Am I correct on this? You went downstairs as well? Is there a downstairs to that? Can you do that?
I don't remember much about that part, no.
I do
And
remember.
my mother worked there 25 years, J.J. Newberry's.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. Longevity.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Good one. Did you have a best friend when you were going to school?
Sure, Dick Terrio.
Dick Terrio.
Yeah, he lived up on Fairgrounds Road. Yeah.
And when did you know him? When did you?
About through high school.
Through high
In
school.
fact, we went in the service together.
Neat.
And we went to the same base. I got sick. I got pneumonia, so we separated there. And then the last time I saw him was in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and he was shipping to England, and I was shipping to Bermuda. And it's been it was over 50 years he came back to Plymouth just to stop for a visit to some of his family. And he walked in, in fact I was working in Hanford at the time, and he walked in the store and he says, "Don Wiggett, Richard Terrio, I know you." You know, we knew each other right off, you know. And we had good times together, a lot of, you know, different things we did. Nothing super, but just hung around together. Yeah.
Good friend.
Yeah, good
A
friends.
friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's important. You may have mentioned this. Did you ever have a favorite hangout as a youngster?
No,
Not at all.
no.
Probably, if anything, we could call Fausti's a hangout because it's
Yeah.
someplace we went after an event.
Yeah,
Yeah. Did they have canteen back then?
no idea.
All right, that's canteen would be after some type of athletic event,
right.
and they had dances for the high school kids, someplace for them to go at night.
Yeah,
Sometimes I think the parents got involved. They would sponsor. They would be the organizing body. So you can't recall that at all.
no, nothing like that.
It was just an opportunity to get together.
Yeah, I wasn't into sports, so I really didn't get into that at all.
I think it was a place to go.
Yeah, right.
And it was safe, as you said. It
Yeah.
was safe to walk down the main street, and they knew if you went to canteen,
There you go.
it would be a safe place for the kids for that night.
Right.
Interesting. I wonder
Yep.
when that started. We'll have to investigate.
Yeah, okay.
Investigate. Let's see. I'm thinking now about some of the businesses. I'm thinking about some of the industries that we've had during your time here in town. Do you remember when certain businesses came to town? Some people would say, oh yeah, I remember when McDonald's came. Can you think of any businesses when they came, or let's conversely, when they may have left? That's putting you on the spot.
No, I think Draper Maynard, that was a big outfit. My father, in fact, worked there in the boiler room for a short time. And I don't remember much about it. I knew it was manufacturing baseball gloves and stuff like that. I know a little about, that's about all I know about that place. And there was a place that came in upon, going out of Plymouth, there was a factory up there on the right-hand side.
Where the Common Man is?
Huh?
Where the Common Man is?
No.
Going up on the hill,
Yeah.
Highland Street?
Yeah, way up.
Hitchner's?
Hitchers.
Oh.
Yeah, I remember when they came in. Yeah.
Early 60s. Early
yep.
60s.
Again, don't know much about it. I think my sister worked there for a short time. Yeah.
Employed a lot of people.
Yeah, oh yeah. Right. Yeah.
They came in from Sanford, Maine, I think. Interesting. I didn't know your dad worked in the boiler room at Draper to Maynard.
What's that?
I didn't know your dad worked at the
Oh yeah.
boiler room in Draper and Maynard.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
I think he was there, and he also worked at the college boiler room too.
Ah, that physical plant.
Yeah.
Where would that have been located?
That was up on, well, right beside the old school.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Beside the elementary school?
Yeah.
You are right.
Yep.
Yeah, you are right. There's a lot of people that can't go backwards that far and
Yeah.
remember that.
Yep. In fact, there was a house right there. I'm trying to remember the guy's name. I can't think of it at the moment. But anyways, his wife was my aunt. She was Maud. Her name was Maud.
Not Maud Adams.
No. Maud.
But you're talking about houses, so where the physical plant was,
Yeah, the
there
house
was
that-
a street
Yep.
that had 3 or 4 houses.
Yep.
Is that those the ones that led up to the president's house?
Could be. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
and
been
one
so
by
long,
one.
I can't remember much about
Yeah,
that, but
that's a long time ago.
a long time ago.
Interesting, interesting. But if I said to you downtown stores, we've already talked about that. Five and dime.
Right.
Newberry's
That was a
come and
big
gone.
thing.
That was huge,
I guess
huge.
you'd call that a hangout. I mean, a lot of guys would go down and have a soda or some ice cream or something like that.
Sure.
After school.
Well, you could have lunch there, but they had a fountain there,
Oh,
so
yeah.
you could have a soda.
Right. Yep.
And large windows so you could look outside.
Yep. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, let's see. If you were going to talk with a group of students here in front of you, or anybody from a younger generation, are there things that you would want to tell them about the town of Plymouth?
But it was a nice town to be brought up in. It was a town that you didn't have to worry about somebody, in fact, never locked your doors, stuff like that type thing, you know. You could leave your house, I won't say wide open, but nothing ever happened.
Wow.
And the kids were brought up with respect. They were taught to Mr. and Mrs. and that type thing. And I think that today, from what I've heard, because I'm not involved with the education part, but so many people are disrespectful to the teachers. The kids just don't have the Mr. and Mrs. type thing.
How do we change that?
I don't know.
How do we change that?
I think that kids have grown up in these last couple of generations that have had everything given to them. You know, they never had to work, they never had to do this, they never had to do that. Whereas before, we got up, we went to school, and we worked after that, and we had supper and went to bed. You know, and I'm not saying that was all our lives, but just saying in general, I think that the younger generation has had so much given to them, and they expect so much. Where us guys back then, we were just happy to have a car. We were happy to be able to do whatever we did, but it was nothing compared to what it is today. We didn't travel a lot and stuff like that. But people today have been to Disney World. I never been to. I'd like to go see Mickey Mouse. I've never seen him yet.
You haven't.
Well, I'm just saying it. I think that's the difference. It's like people. I think every parent tries to improve on from what they had when they were growing up. Give the kids to give them that much, maybe a little extra, you know. And I think what's happened is that kids have had too much extra, you know. So, and responsibilities and stuff like that, and respect, and it's like, I don't think it's a thing of the past, but very seldom you meet somebody, hi, Mr. So-and-so, or hi, Mrs. So-and-so, you know. No.
We were taught you should not call them by their first name. It's always Mr. and Mrs., a sign of respect. You're absolutely right. I do remember that. I do remember that. I think one of the intents of us, the Historical Society, starting this project was to talk about community, and you've done that today. I think your words of wisdom at the end are really appreciated. It makes us think about that. Community is important. I've talked to the audience before. We're in this fast-paced world, and sometimes we forget what a community is, what it should be. What could we do more? I'm asking you, I'm putting you on the spot, Don, so we can pass, but how do we create a community? How do we create it?
How do you create a community?
Yeah. Are there other avenues, ways of bringing people together so we get to know them? You're telling me on the main street, when you and I walk the main street, do we know the people on the main street anymore?
Not anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know how you would do that, because things have changed so much from the 50s to the 2000. There's been massive changes every 10 years, every 10, 20, 30 years. There's more changes. People get all these cell phones and all the stuff that they have
Technology.
today, which I still don't have one. You know, and to me, I don't know, it's just confusing. You know, and to bring a bunch of people together, because Plymouth area has changed so much, because so many new people have come in, and they are coming from different areas. They have different ideas compared to what we have, you know. And to be able to put something like that together, it'll be quite a project, you know. So
I think that's why we're telling the stories. It reminds us, who are our audience today? Who will our audience be tomorrow? Is it the people of the same age as us that are listening to us now? What would happen if some of the younger folks in their teens or 20s listened? What would their ideas be about what a community is? Is it just the place that they grew up and then they're going to take off?
I think that's it.
Perhaps. Why do some of us come back to this community? I've been talking to friends a little bit older than myself, but I came back after a hiatus of many years. They're doing the same thing. Why do they come back to this town of Plymouth? What is so special about Plymouth?
It's a good town. It's a good place to be. It's more or less, I won't say it's not unfriendly, but it's not as friendly as it used to be, because there's so many new people, and a lot of the new people grew up in the cities and stuff like that, where they didn't even talk to their neighbors, you know, things that, that's what I've heard, you know. And I think I've seen, working in the grocery business for 60 years, I've met about every kind of personality you could ever meet, and I've dealt with every whatever, and it's like, I found by just saying hello, oh, hi, you know, like people will respond, and somebody speaks to me, you know. And I think that's better than my training I received at a young age, you know. And because of that, I think I always try to create a good impression, you know. I'm doing my job, can I help you? That type of thing. And I think that's a big thing that's lacking, just because some stores you go to, what do you want? That type, you know.
So if we had advice for those people listening, watching today, if you're walking along the main street of Plymouth, look up, take the initiative and say hello to somebody.
Yeah.
That's easy said.
I've done that many, many times. look at you, oh, hello, you know, what's wrong with this guy?
Well, oftentimes their minds, as you said, the use of technology, they're plugged in.
But, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. We have to remind them to smell the roses a little
There
bit.
you go. There you go.
Yeah. All right. Is there, during your tenure in the grocery stores where you worked for decades, is there something that happened that saddened you? And is there anything that you can remember that made you laugh, that you're in a position to share with our audience?
Oh boy.
Be careful.
I think as far as working in the business for so many years and knowing so many people, I think it's what's sad for me was when Carl Adams passed away.
Ah.
That was a tough one because he was a great guy. And I think that, you know, although I had been to a few funerals before that, but that one really, you know, set the pace. It's like, wow, this guy's gone, you know. And I think as far as funny things that have happened, well, at Adams Market days, a lady came in the store, it was a hot summer day, and she passed out in my arms. And she was 9 months pregnant. So, I'm not a doctor. But anyways, I held on and I got to a spot where I could set her down. And that was just one of the amusing things that happened to me.
Oh my gosh.
But it was a shocker, I'll tell you. But anyways,
Sorry.
it's all right. Different things have happened. I have to say, I'm trying to think of something humorous that was said that.
Well, that was pretty humorous. So I don't know if you could top that, even if you wanted to.
Yeah.
I can remember when Mr. Adams passed, and my father closed the store, he shut the door down, and he shut all the lights off, and I said, "Why are you doing this?" And I guess now I understand. Well, I understood then too, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, when people work on the main street, that's their own group. That is their own group. Yeah, they're
Exactly.
serving people the best they possibly can.
Right.
Interesting. Well, we have a few minutes left to go. Can you think of anything else you'd like to share with the audience today? Your time in Plymouth. People that you've met, people you've enjoyed, places that you've been. Childhood. Here's one of mine, and maybe that will just trigger, because you and I lived close together. At one time, both of us were on Pleasant Street.
Right.
I used to run across the, I'd go by the Maynard house, the Bolio house, and behind it was a large field that currently today we have buildings there from Plymouth State University. That during the winters was a place where we went and we ice skated.
Oh yeah, sure.
Somebody used to do that. I'm assuming that the firemen
Yeah, I
may
think it
have
was,
flooded
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I'm a kid now, so I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, I think they did.
It was just, for me, that's a memory that stayed with me. Although they did it later at Bailey Avenue, that was a place that all of us from that
Yep.
that community, that residence, those streets, we could go over there and we could
Yep.
skate till we wanted to.
Yeah, I did a little of that, not much so. But I don't know, then the town of Plymouth has changed so much, and I think that if people would just slow down and realize what they have today compared to like what we had when we grew up. We didn't have a lot, but what we had, it was good. And you hear so much about the bad parts of the cities and stuff like that, with the drugs and the gangs and all that stuff. We don't have that here. I'm not saying it's drug free or anything like that, but plus older people, drugs, you know, to me that's why bother, you know.
Life
But-
is too good.
Yeah, exactly. Life is too good.
Yeah, it is.
And you want to live it as long as you can live it, and still try to be, even though I'm retired, if somebody needed help, and I could help them, if I could do it, I'd be glad to do it, you know, things like that. But
And did you have siblings?
yeah, I got a brother, a sister and a brother.
All right. And when you got together, what did you guys do for fun as a child, as a
Actually-
teenager?
We never did much really because we always worked, you know. I'd be working in the store, my sister was working, in fact, it used to be York's drugstore, York's Corner drugstore.
Absolutely.
Yeah, she used to make sodas and stuff like that. And my brother, he was 9 years younger than me, so we didn't have, because I went in the service, so we didn't really have a lot of contact over the years, so to speak. But you know, we got along fine, no problem there. It was just that we all were busy. And Mom and Dad, no, they raised us good. You know, I think, and they taught us maybe things today. They taught us things back then that they aren't taught. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm sure you were growing up and where you were, and that store on the corner has been there for what, 90 years or?
You have to go a little higher this year, 100 years.
Is it 100 years?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
100 years. That's the latest I could go back.
Do that in Plymouth Furniture.
Yeah, that's right.
They've been there 108 years, something like that. Or no?
Yeah.
No. Is it 90?
A little younger.
Yeah. Okay. And then Rand's. They have been there for 108 years. I think that's what it was.
More than that now.
Yeah. Right.
It's so fun to talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my dad worked there. He was a plumber for Rand's had a plumbing department. My father worked there for a number of years.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I want to thank you for coming today. This was fun. I hope the audience is enjoying it as much as I am, and I do thank you for your willingness to come, share your stories. It might give some folks a few things to talk about. Yeah. So to my audience today, if I can, we constantly are asking you to take pictures. And more importantly than just taking the pictures is to download them or to save them in a variety of venues. One of the most precious things one of my children gave to me last Christmas, they took all of my pictures, not all, 500 pictures, and she got them scanned and she put them together in a PowerPoint so I could go from my childhood to where I was
Wow,
today.
okay. Yep.
And for a lot of us taking pictures, where are those pictures now? When was the last time you people took out an album and shared it with somebody? And as importantly is, did you put the names of the folks that are in those pictures on the front side, on the back side? And there's a few of you that are actually starting to write stories. If there's an opportunity, a special event, what would that event be? It could be a wedding, it could be somebody passing, it was the last time that you got together as siblings. Please write the story on the back, because I think the future generations are going to appreciate
Right.
what we're attempting to do.
Sure. Yep.
Again, this is part of the Plymouth Historical Society's initiative, Memories of Plymouth. If you would like to get engaged, if you'd like to be part of this process, please let us know. If you know of people that you think that would be willing to come, and thank you, Don, for your willingness to come.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, it's for me, it's an absolute joy. This is so
Same
much
here.
fun.
I enjoyed it very much.
Absolutely. This is good. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure, young lady.